Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the incredible Springbok career of 2004 Tri-Nations champion Brent Russell. Brent, welcome to Front Row Rugby.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thanks for the invite.
I'd also like to thank the South African Rugby Legends Association for helping to make this interview with Brent Russell possible. You can visit them at www.sarugbylegends.com. Now, before we begin the conversation with Brent, let's take a look at today's trivia question. In 2001, the Springboks finished their test year against the USA in Houston. Who captained the Boks that day? Now, if you know the answer to the question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Brent knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Brent, I'd like to start in 2002. Against Wales in Bloemfontein, you ran onto the field for the first time as a Springbok in a test match. How did that moment feel?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a roller coaster period in my life. I'd just come off what I recall as a very successful year with the Seventh Circuit with Chester. I mean, we were sitting second on the log behind New Zealand, and we managed to get into the finals most tournaments. I was loving the rugby there. I'd never been exposed to Currie Cup or Super Rugby before. And all of a sudden, I got a call up into the trials with Rudolf Straeuli and Tim Lane, and ended up just having 20 minutes at the end of the game and managed to knock down the door a little bit. And the rest is history. I got selected into the team. So just that 2002 year in my life was a very big year. Roller coaster up and down. All of a sudden, I'm finding myself sitting in the Springbok squad. And yeah, just all good memories. Looking back at the experiences that one gets when you're playing with your heroes all of a sudden, and just the exposure that you get on the international circuit and everything. Yeah, it was a very special year, 2002, and one that I'll cherish forever.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not consider becoming a patron? It's my dream, guys, to do this full time, and with a small financial contribution, you can help me realize that dream. The link and the QR code is appearing on your screen right now, and I'll also put it down in the description area for you to go and click on at a later stage if you would like to do so. And by becoming a patron, I promise there will be great benefits for members. Now let's get back to the interview. The following week you started for the first time. That was in Cape Town, also against the Welsh. I've had many former Springboks on this show, Brent, who have told me after they made their debut off the bench that it was only when they started for the first time that they felt that they were truly Springboks. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I think you make the squad and you never know if you're going to get the opportunity. You know, you only really are a Springbok when you get onto the field, they say. So there are a few of mates or a few people that I know that made the squad and never got onto the field. And yeah, they're still regarded as Springboks because they got selected. But I think ultimately, as a player, you want to be on that field. You want to be able to make an impact on that field, on that game. And only once you are and have done that, or do you regard yourself as, I suppose, a Springbok in your own mind. But yeah, my first test was against Wales in Bloem. I was coming off the bench. I know you've done a little interview with Ricardo Locha. He got injured, so they ended up getting me on, and I came onto the field at number 10. Actually, I was selected for the Springboks at 10. You wouldn't believe, but ended up playing 15 and wing for the majority of my career. Yeah, so just getting my first test match, obviously is an honour, and yeah, something that I will cherish forever.
Brent, I think it's fair to say that on the Tri-Nations away leg against Australia in Brisbane, that's when you first truly announced yourself with a powerful try against the Wallabies. A memorable moment now for those of us who remember it fondly, even though we lost that match. But obviously the highlights reels live long in the memory. How do you remember that occasion?
Sheesh, I just got passed the ball and told to run, you know. So you ultimately you did what I could do best, and obviously I had speed on my side and just put my ears back and just charged for that line, you know. So yeah, I love playing against the Australians. I don't know what it was about them, but they seemed to get the best out of me. the style of play, I suppose. And yeah, I ended up having some of my best test matches against the Wallabies, and that was one of the first test match. Yes, we lost, but it was a very exciting game. Once again, I came off the bench, and yeah, I just happened to get the ball, first touch of the ball. I ended up charging down the line and got ankle tapped by Latham, and I mean, it wasn't Latham, it was cheapest. Where's my mind gone? But anyway, I got ankle tapped and just got up as quick as possible with Marius Jabed jumping on my back. So those were the early days. Like I said, everything was a whirlwind. Every single test match was just like, geez, I'm here again, and facing the All Black haka. It's just you're young and you just you've got so much adrenaline, you just want to do more and more and more. So I watch some of the guys nowadays and I'm just like, yeah, I miss it. I miss the games and that feeling of adrenaline.
And you had other famous moments against the Wallabies as well, which we will talk about a little bit later in this interview. But I want to talk about the next Tri-Nations match when we came home against New Zealand. A crazy fan ran onto the field in Durban, Piet Van Zyl. What was going through your mind at that stage?
Yeah, geez, I think that was warranted at the moment. Looking back at that test match, I think we should have won that game. We played better rugby, and I mean, I remember there was a try that we scored, and they blew us up for obstruction, and it was nowhere close to obstruction. So, and when I was on the field, I remember there was a pass, and they called it forward or a knock on, and I certainly don't recall that was actually the right call. So yes, a little bit of disappointment in a sense that we could have won that game and should have won that game. And I suppose the fans, Piet Van Zyl, took it out on the referee. You always get a little bit of feeling towards the refs, but you never really expect anyone to actually get on the field and actually take it out on the referee. So yeah, it was a bit of a crazy event. I remember sitting on the bench, seeing this guy jumping over and watching him run on and thinking, what's going on here? And never to expect that he would actually tackle and break his collarbone in that little incident. But yeah, we should have won that game, and that was my frustration too, in the sense that we played better rugby and the ref maybe cost us.
And then the following week against Australia, a memorable win with Van Zyl scoring that try right at the end to help us beat the Wallabies. How do you remember that occasion?
Yeah, so once again, just wanting to get out onto the field. The morning of that test match in Ellis Park, I remember it's Saturday morning. It's a little bit overcast. It's cold. I'm on the bench. I'm still on the bench, and Andre comes up to the coaching staff, Andre Pretorius, and says he's not 100%. And so they come up to me and said, Brent, would you be happy to start at 10? I said, of course. That's where I originally came in from, So, and once again, Australia just seemed to get the best out of us. Ended up scoring a good try, set up a couple others, and obviously let Australia back in the last 20. And needed a break and try and kick for conversion to win that game. And thanks for Van Zyl for stepping up there and doing that. But that was that was obviously the end of our Tri-Nations, and we had a very up and down Tri-Nations. I think it was quite a new step that Rudolf was taking in the direction, in a sense of selecting outside of the traditional way, the means, and going trials and giving more people an opportunity. And I think that's where I got my nickname, Pocket Rocket, because I mean Rudolf ended up selecting like 5 guys that were my height, and so he went a very small team, try to adopt a rugby style of moving the ball, and yeah, it was just a year where we didn't perform too well in the Tri-Nations, and that last game was the final one where we actually won that one, and that was actually a good point of where we could have gone, So we just needed to build from that, and yeah. Anyway, it was a fun game, good game, and one for the memory bank for me, because that was actually one of my better games.
And then you were part of the end of year tour in 2002. I think it's fair to say that it was an unhappy tour, certainly in terms of performances and results. Would you say that maybe beforehand you could see that the writing was on the wall?
I mean, so I went back after the Tri Nations, and I went back to the Pumas, and the Pumas was just a fun, absolutely fun season. I played my first Currie Cup game and my first Super Rugby, or not even my first Super Rugby game, but we played a very open, expansive game. We attacked from everywhere, and we were a little bit hard done by. We should have, I believe, got into the semi-finals of the Currie Cup that year. I won't take up Corne Kricha on that when we were playing Western Province, but we did very well and ended up getting a couple of other call-ups from the Pumas into the end of year team. So I think it was Christopher Sadenote and a couple of other selections, Marco Wenzel, and I mean it was just that we were. It didn't feel like a proper team going into that end of year tour. It just felt like a bunch of guys put together, and there wasn't really cohesiveness and structure and existing players that we could sort of be mentored with, Yes, maybe there was too much change too soon, and we relied quite heavily on our flair at the time, and we didn't have a good tour. I don't know if you recall, but England was at the top of their game. 2002, they just they were actually world champions the next year. So they were very, very solid. They were very structured, and we're coming up against us who were very non-structured, all over the show, young team, and so we were badly humiliated at Twickenham. And that was the end of the season. I mean, that was our last game. So that's how our season ended, And I think that's what happened when it went into the new year. That was the year of the Kamp Staaldraad. Just we weren't on a positive trajectory, and what needed to happen was, I think, take a few steps back, consolidate your team, and just obviously build a more solid team, and which I believe wasn't done and wasn't at that end of year tour, was the start of what I call a bad year in 2003. So, which was a pity, because it's a pity that I was in that era where we got to experience the Kamp Staaldraad, and just a little bad year in SA rugby history.
Into 2003, and we were playing at the old Boete Rasmus Stadium against Argentina. Louis Kuhn had to kick that penalty right at the end to win it for us. I'd be very interested to hear from you, Brent. As a player standing there watching Louis line up the kick, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year again, once again, after I think Sharks had a right start to the Super Rugby, so I don't know why, but I was left out of the first two tests against Scotland, and we almost lost one of those tests and ended up getting called back in for that Argentinian test. And we were losing when I went on the field about 15 minutes to go. We were losing by quite a big margin in PE, Boete Rasmus Stadium. And it was just, I don't know why, but I just ended up just attacking, and ended up scoring a try, and we got a few penalties, and it ended up with a kick of Louis Kuhn. And who better to step up at that time than Louis Kuhn, who just ended up being quite solid goal kicking, and quite a key. I mean, he reminds me quite a lot of Bram van Straten with his kicking. Obviously, Bram was more in your face on defence, but Louis Kuhn ended up absorbing that pressure and just converting to win that game, which would have been our first loss against the Argentinians. And it was they came out properly. It was a very tough game, and I just remember 10 minutes you could change the game, So that was quite an experience against those guys, and always enjoyed playing against the RGs. Although it was always a niggly game, so you could never really know which way it was going to go. They play very similar to us, and they're in your face. And but we won that, and off we went into another Tri Nations, and Yeah, that's another whole story. But yeah, I enjoyed that one game, pre-season game, which was against Argentina.
And then the Tri-Nation started, and I said we would come back to Australia. And there's an important reason why I want to begin with this part of the Tri-Nations, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. Jaco van der Westhuizen goes off injured. You come on, put in a man-of-the-match performance, and we beat the Wallabies at Newlands. How incredible was that occasion for you?
Yes, very memorable. That was, funny enough, that was my best game. Coming off 2 minutes from the start, ended up just attacking, setting up a Victor Matfield's famous try. And yeah, I just played with so much confidence. I'd come off the Argentinian game, and now I'm playing with confidence. And yeah, just it shows when you've got confidence and when you believe in yourself, you play totally different. And that was my best game. Going into the very next game against the All Blacks, that was my worst game. So that's life in the rugby field. You go from your best, you go from complete highs to complete lows in 1 week. And yeah, it's just, once again, we were not structured, and we were just playing a very, very open, expansive game. I don't believe we were still relying very heavily on our key players for flair and for attacking, and then an Australian game we played very well, won convincingly. But the very next week we ran into the All Blacks and got 50, and yeah, I just couldn't catch a ball. Confidence was low. You need to build confidence up. There were moments leading up to that test match that I would say are very key to me building up confidence. And when you're told to try and take balls out of the air, and that's not one of your strengths, and you just hammered and hammered and hammered that. So they're trying to pick on your weaknesses. That didn't build confidence in me leading up to an All Blacks. And funny enough, I didn't have to take one out of the air, but I couldn't catch the ball. And long story short, best game 1 week, worst game the next week, and that was how confidence rolls in professional sport.
And the reason that I said that it was important, Brent, is because that was actually on my birthday. So thank you very much for the birthday present.
No, you're welcome. And yeah, it was a good test match to have on your birthday. Luckily, it wasn't a week later.
I know you missed out on the World Cup because of injury. Did you also miss out on Kamp Staaldraad?
Yeah, I missed Kamp Staaldraad. The week before Kamp Staaldraad, it was the most intense training. We had 4 trainings a day. We didn't even have time to strap. And we had a gym session, I think it's 5:30 in the morning, that went on till about 6:30, 7, straight back, eating breakfast, into the team meeting at, I think it was 7:30, so I didn't even have time to eat, no time to strap my ankles. And one of my best mates, Neil de Kock, little one-on-one warm-up tackling drill, I sort of said, I'm going that way, going to the right, and he sort of just left his arms on just for it's a warm-up drill, and his legs swung around and caught my ankle, twisted my ankle, and I was out for over 2 months. So I missed the World Cup. The week later, the team was announced, and they went straight on to Kamp Staaldraad. So in hindsight, I am happy I missed Kamp Staaldraad, but obviously very disappointed I missed the World Cup. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about Rudolf Straeuli then as a coach, the way that you experienced him?
Yeah, listen, I must commend him in certain aspects. I mean, he saw value in me to select me, although I do believe that was a very big part of Tim Lane's side to be in the squad, and he selected me. He knew what I suppose he saw in me and could work with me because he was our backline coach. But Rudolf still was the head coach and still had to make the call and selected me. So in that regard, he afforded me the opportunity to play for the Springboks, but secondly, never really managed to get the best out of me. I don't think he was a coach that instilled belief and structure and just the thinking around building confidence. If anything, 2003, he started panicking, started feeling threatened, and started making irrational decisions that sort of put a lot of doubt in the players' minds as to just their beliefs. And like everyone felt like their job was on the line. And you can't operate at your best with your performance up there. So in that regard, as a coach, I would say he didn't. Yeah, maybe he would have done it differently if he knew now. Not saying that, but those 2 years, I don't believe that he instilled belief in the players, created that environment for players to build their confidence and excel. More put players on the edge and created that just that feeling of anxiousness within the team, and the players certainly felt it, and it showed on the field. I mean, we were just struggling to put match-winning performances over and over and over again. And but once again, you have those moments. He was only coached for 2 years before Jake White stepped in, and I got to experience quite a lot of Jake White too.
So the following year, Jake White comes into the picture. I've been told that the atmosphere was completely different under Jake. I know that you didn't feature all that much in the Tri-Nations, but you were part of the squad. So what did it feel like when the referee blew the final whistle in Durban against Australia and you were a Tri-Nations champion?
Yeah, so my experience with the Jake White's a lot different to Rudolf Straeuli era. Jake obviously had a lot of structure, too much structure, I'd say, but a lot of structure those days with a core group of guys that he liked. As much as well as I was playing, I played some of my best rugby in 2004. I was on the peak of my fitness. I was on the peak of my strength and loving my rugby. And every single time I got into the Springbok setup, I would sit on the bench and not get on. So I would come out of a Tri-Nations, and especially that one, I came out of it with quite frustrated that I only played 8 minutes of game time. And it was against the All Blacks in Christchurch, and that pass went over my head and they scored in the corner. Once again, that was my only moment in that Tri-Nations that I got to experience. We won the Tri-Nations. So considering where we had come from in 2003, from an all-time low to a Tri-Nations, obviously that set up a good platform for the guys to work off for the next 4 years leading up to the next World Cup. And you've got to commend Jake for the structure and for sticking to what he knows to stay within the confines that he actually had put in place for this team. And he played a brand that was sort of based off the old Australian structure, just consistent, know your moves. The first 3-4 phases are structured, and then you play off the flair, but then came in with a little bit more. So everyone knew their functions. I mean, we'd have to run through plays over and over and over again. But I'd have to hold bags over and over and over again. So that didn't do me any good in my psyche. And so 2004 was a very different year for me. One that was quite frustrating. That was the start of my frustrating run with the Springboks when I played with Jake. I never really got opportunity to showcase what I felt I could do. So.
And then, as you mentioned, you featured sporadically in 2005 and 6, and then it all came to an end against France at Newlands in Cape Town. How frustrating was that period, and at the same time, disappointing was it for you that it ended there?
Yeah, I mean, I actually hadn't started a game in about 2.5 years. So 2006 was one of my first starts. In about 2 years, I actually can't work out exactly when it was my previous start, but that was the first start that I got under Jake. On the wing, I mean, if you knew me now, wing is probably my worst position. I just felt like I was on the outskirts. If the game involved the wing coming in at number 10 to get the ball and get involved and snipe and sort of attack in the gaps, I think that ultimately would have worked better for me. And I think our wings are included a lot more, or outside players are included a lot more in play in the current structure, from what I can see. But back then I didn't feel like we had opportunity to come into play and get involved. And so Yeah, that was my last start. I obviously loved the opportunity to play at Newlands. That obviously I started my rugby in Western Province. Being back at Newlands, it's always one of the best stadiums to play at. Ended up scoring a try in the corner, which was trying to wiggle through a few of the defenders. I don't know how. Actually, sometimes I managed that. But also being French, we lost the game. I don't know how we did. We should have taken control of the game, and maybe one or two lucky bounces of the ball, and they scored a try, which ultimately won the game for them in the end. And I think that was nearly my last Test match. I did go on the end of year tour or Australia tour, but I never really got a start again. So that was one of my last Test matches. I ended up getting capped 23 times, and obviously missed out on the 2007 World Cup. I think by then I was very frustrated with sitting on the bench for 3 years, and there was new youngsters in JP Peterson and Francois Steyn that were coming up through the ranks, and they were given opportunities and they shone, and they ended up being a key to our victory in 2007. So obviously very proud of the boys. That was like the team I'd played with for the last 3 years and so badly wanted to be there again. So I missed out on 2 World Cups, but so is life. No regrets in that. At least I got to play with them.
Brent, you were known for your versatility, and I think it's fair to say that in the modern era, you would have probably been an important member of the bomb squad, coming off the bench, making an impact, making a difference. But in those days, being on the bench didn't guarantee that you were actually going to get onto the field. Do you think that maybe there was also an element of the coaches at that stage not knowing what to do with you?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately something that I've pondered about, thought about a long time. I mean, I think my versatility allowed me to stay in the setup for longer, but it also didn't allow me to be relied on. So I was superfluous to their needs. I mean, they could have selected me anywhere and I would have put my hand up and gone, but it didn't really help me from a confidence aspect to know exactly where I'm playing, how to place, play a season at fly half or play a season at 15 and then be selected at 15 for the Springboks. I think ultimately that's what I needed. And I needed a coach to, I suppose, see the strengths in me and not the weaknesses in me. Yes, I'm small, but I mean, if you're looking at the Cheslins of the world now and all the small guys in our team, like it's phenomenal. I'm like so proud of these guys because it goes to show that they've actually got so much more to give than just size. And and I wouldn't say now it would have been different. Obviously, it's your confidence. It's what you're playing, where you're playing. Obviously, getting into the setup, working as a team. I mean, there's aspects now. Rugby's a totally different game from when we played it, and obviously could never say that, but yes, that was my strength, was to dance on the field, to make an impact, to see a little gap and go for it, and it was. That's what I brought back when I played. What I'm seeing now is very much so badly where I would have loved to have thrived, and not saying that I would have played for the Springboks with these guys playing there at the moment, but they relate to me very well. Small and absolute fighters, and I love them and want to see more guys like that coming up through the ranks. Obviously, we need size in the team. Size does bring a lot of muscle, but geez, the game's moved where we need skill. So skill is what wins games now.
Okay, Brent, so who was your toughest opponent?
Sure. That was quite difficult. Yes, when I was playing 10, obviously the guys would run up at you. So I never really saw individuals as your opponent. I saw teams, and so when I saw teams, was the toughest opponent was, yes, I think the Crusaders, the All Blacks. Crusaders just seemed to work so well as a team, but obviously the individuals in the Crusaders, the Dan Carters were immense. But one tackle, or one incident that I suppose you could relate to, was Tana Umanga running at me from the Hurricanes, and I was playing at 10 and absolutely woke up in the hospital. So I was knocked out, and those were early days. Those were in 2003 when I just started playing for the Sharks. But yeah, there was some very big opponents. Jerry Collins. I remember Luwaki. Luwaki was playing for the Chiefs. I ended up playing with him at Clermont-Ferrand, and I've never seen a guy with such big thighs. I mean, I couldn't even wrap my arms around his thighs. So there were some very good New Zealander rugby players, and they seemed to play best as a team. And and then maybe from Australia, Matt Rogers. He played fullback. I played fullback, and we had a good understanding of each other, and we enjoyed each other's company. Yeah, so there's some good opponents out there. All Blacks, Crusaders were the two toughest opponents.
I think I know the answer to the next question based on what you've been saying about the smaller players in the current Springbok setup. But is there a player playing right now who you particularly admire?
Yeah, I think what Cheslin has done, and the effort that he puts in on the field. I definitely suppose I would look up that he's my favorite player. Just because I know what it's like to be small. Obviously, we've got small wings on both sides. So, but what Cheslin has done in 2 World Cups just seems to, and what Toulouse, it just seems to come out with the goods when the tough gets going, and he's always trying his hardest. I think that ultimately, but at the moment, the new 10, Sasha.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited to see that talent mature, and I really see a lot of capability, and just exciting games in the future. And I think if we can nurture him well, protect him in a sense of not just hanging him out to dry on the defense or exposing him and saying, why can't you score us, but build this guy up into a world-class 10. There's nothing saying that he can't be the best number 10 in the world. And I don't want to put that pressure on him, because I think ultimately he's feeling it. But I do think he's got the makings of a great. And so that's quite exciting. I always like to go for players that are in key positions. We need another 10 to step up. We've got enough 9s. I love a little Grant Williams, and we don't seem to be lacking flankers or forwards. So definitely the 10 is the most interesting position at the moment for me, with Cheslin and co as the backs. He's the new pocket rocket, I would call him.
Is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time with the Springboks?
Oh, jeez, what goes on tour stays on tour, and got to be careful what I say. I don't want to call out anybody. No, but I think, certain Sharks tours, you become family, so you spend such a long time on tours together. So you end up like brothers. You end up doing, you end up like family. So I remember a couple of the guys putting sleeping pills into other guys' coffee, especially when you're overseas and jet lagged and you've been forced to stay awake. And you ultimately watch them and they get into trouble for falling asleep. But no, there's a lot of other stories on the pitch, and maybe not so much all funny, but there's certainly a lot of stories you can sit around a braai and tell. But maybe that's for another day.
And what are you up to these days?
So I've been working at an asset management business, which is Anchor Capital, as a wealth manager. But I've just recently moved into my own business. I own a share in quite a well-established financial services business. So, and I sort of come across with more corporate I regard myself as a corporate specialist consulting to pension provident funds, the assets within there, and then maybe putting the structures in place for a healthcare system. Yeah, and just put the systems in place for our consultants to consult on an individual level. So that's my real job. I've got a real job now. I've been doing it for 11 years. And maybe, just doing a little bit of asset finance with a core group of other guys. So, just seeing where I can help people.
Sounds good to me. Let's finish off by looking at that trivia question again. In 2001, the Springboks finished their test year against the USA in Houston. Who captained the Boks that day? Do you know the answer, Brent?
Can I Google it? Can I Google it? Yeah, I'll take a flyer. Was it not John Smith?
So I'd have to go back and check, because I think John Smith may have actually played in that test match, but the correct answer actually is Andre Vos.
Okay, yes. So he was still the incumbent captain at those days. So, okay, I didn't know that. So that was a bit...
Brent, let me say it was an absolute pleasure having you on Front Row Rugby today. So nice to listen to those old stories, and I really hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for the interview. Obviously, only a pleasure to take part, and good luck, and wish you all the best.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, I had Tri-Nations champion Andre Snyman on the show. You can go and watch that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, I'll have double World Cup winner Frans Steyn here.